The forest is never silent. From the first light of dawn, the air trembles with the calls of hornbills, the chatter of monkeys, the hum of unseen insects. Shafts of sunlight cut through the thick green roof above, landing in broken patterns on the moss-covered branches. High in this living cathedral, a moment both fragile and eternal is taking place. Nestled in a cradle of leaves, a female chimpanzee holds her newborn for the very first time. The infant is impossibly small, its pink face pressed into the warmth of her chest, fingers no bigger than a berry stem gripping her dark fur. It knows nothing of the world yet, only the steady rhythm of her heartbeat, the softness of her scent, the comfort of her arms. Around them, the troop moves carefully, curious but respectful. Older females glance over, their dark eyes soft with recognition. A young male dangles from a nearby vine, peering at the newcomer before darting away in play. Life in the canopy continues, but for this mother, the world has narrowed to one fragile life. Every newborn here is a miracle. The forest is both sanctuary and battlefield, and survival will depend on the lessons this child will learn. Lessons of patience, strength, and unity. But for now, there is only safety in her embrace. The day is warm, the air is thick with the smell of rain, and the forest sings a lullaby only its children understand. In this moment, a new chapter in the life of the forest has begun, one that will unfold in triumphs and trials, from the first tentative climb to the final setting sun. All right, here's the continuation into first lessons, keeping the same deep, immersive narration, so the story flows naturally from birth into early life. Days turn into weeks, and the tiny infant, once curled tightly against its mother, begins to change. Its grip grows stronger. Its eyes, once cloudy with newborn haze, now follow the sway of leaves, the flash of a bird's wings, the movement of the troop around them. The mother climbs slowly through the branches, each step measured, each leap precise. The infant clings to her belly, its small body rocking with her every move. In these early months, the forest is nothing more than a blur of light and shadow, sound and smell, but it is already teaching. When the troop gathers to feed, the mother positions herself in the heart of the group, where it is safest. She plucks figs, crushing them gently in her lips before offering the soft pulp to her child. The sweetness lingers, and the infant smacks its tiny lips, a first taste of the forest's gifts. Playful juveniles tumble nearby, wrestling on a thick branch. Their laughter is high-pitched and bubbling, a sound of pure energy. The infant watches, head tilting, as if trying to understand the strange dance of limbs and squeals. Soon it too will join these games that are more than just fun, but lessons in balance, strength, and friendship. One afternoon, the mother pauses on a sturdy limb and loosens her hold. For the first time, she shifts the infant onto her back. Small hands clutch the thick fur on her shoulders, and the child's eyes widen as the forest rushes past, in a blur of green and gold. The ride is thrilling and frightening, but it is the first step toward independence. In the forest, learning begins the moment life begins. And here, every lesson is a matter of survival. All right, let's move into play and curiosity, where the young chimp's personality starts to bloom, and the forest becomes its playground. The young chimp is no longer a tiny bundle clinging to its mother. Months have passed, and its limbs are stronger, its eyes brighter, and its mind hungry for the world. Curiosity pulls it toward everything. Every rustle in the leaves, every glimmer of light on a spider's web, every new sound drifting through the canopy. Play begins in simple ways, batting at dangling vines, chasing butterflies, tumbling in soft leaves. But soon, the games grow louder, faster. The young ones wrestle on the thick limbs of an ancient fig tree, squealing with delight as they push, pull, and flip each other. These battles are not just for fun. They build strength, agility, and the quick reflexes needed for life in the wild. Mischief is never far behind. One daring juvenile creeps toward an older male's pile of ripe guavas. With a sudden snatch, it grabs one and darts away, shrieking with laughter as the elder gives a half-hearted chase. The young chimp watches this theft with wide eyes, then tries it too, clumsy at first, but thrilled by the rush of success. Copying the elders becomes a daily ritual. When the troop uses sticks to pry termites from a mound, the young one watches closely, then mimics the motion, even if the stick comes away empty. When the alpha male pounds the tree trunk with his fists to show his strength, the youngster pounds a smaller branch, trying to echo the sound. Each imitation, each tumble, each stolen bite of fruit is more than play. It's the shaping of identity, the slow weaving of the skills and confidence needed to survive. The forest is both school and playground, and every day is a lesson wrapped in laughter. All right, here's the rules of the troop, where the young chimp's playful freedom begins to meet the realities of social life. In the treetop kingdom, there are rules, unspoken, but enforced with absolute certainty. The young chimp is beginning to learn them. Every morning, as the mist clings to the branches, the troop gathers. The strongest sit where they please. The alpha male takes the best spot in the sun, his dark coat gleaming, his posture tall and unyielding. Around him, the others move with care, never meeting his eyes too long, never challenging his place. The young chimp watches the elders' subtle movements. When a lower-ranking male passes the alpha, he bows slightly, lips pressed in a submissive grin. Females approach him with soft hoots and outstretched hands, offering to groom his fur. Grooming, the young one learns, is more than cleanliness. It is currency. It buys peace, trust, and protection. But not all lessons are gentle. One afternoon, the youngster bounds too close to the alpha's pile of ripe figs. In a flash, the great male lunges, his bark splitting the forest air. The young chimp freezes, heart racing, until its mother yanks it back, holding it tight against her chest. The message is clear. Respect the hierarchy, or face the consequences. Friendships matter here too. The young one begins to seek allies. Other juveniles, patient older females, even tolerant males who allow it to linger nearby. Through grooming and shared food, bonds form, weaving the chimp deeper into the troop's web. In the canopy, survival depends on more than speed or strength. It depends on understanding your place, knowing who to trust, and when to yield. The young chimp is still learning. The forest teaches, and it teaches quickly. It begins on a warm afternoon. The troop is scattered through the mid-canopy, lazily feeding on figs. Sunlight flickers between the leaves, and the air smells of sweet fruit and damp moss. The young chimp dangles from a branch, playfully swinging one leg, unaware that eyes are watching from below. Deep in the shadows, a leopard crouches on a broad branch just above the forest floor. Its golden coat blends perfectly with the mottled light. Each slow step is silent, each muscle coiled like a spring. The predator's gaze locks onto the smallest and weakest in the group. A sudden stillness falls. One of the older females freezes, scanning the lower branches. She lets out a sharp alarm bark, high and urgent. The forest explodes into chaos. The young chimp's mother lunges forward, scooping it into her arms. She scrambles upward, higher into the canopy, her breath quick and ragged. Other troop members scream and shake branches, hurling sticks and breaking off leaves to rain down on the intruder. The leopard leaps, claws scraping bark, but a barrage of falling branches forces it to retreat into the shadows. Within moments, it melts back into the forest, silent as it came. High above, the troop gathers, panting, eyes wide. The young chimp clings desperately to its mother, heart pounding against her chest. This is the first time it has felt fear this sharp. Fear that comes without warning, from something unseen. In the forest, danger is never far. And from this day on, the youngster will remember, survival depends on vigilance and the protection of the troop. All right, I'll make the hunt much longer, turning it into a cinematic and highly detailed sequence that shows the intelligence, teamwork, and raw survival skills of the troop. The rains have eased, and with them, the abundance of fruit. The fig trees that once offered endless meals now stand with bare branches, their bounty gone. Hunger sharpens the senses of the troop. For weeks they have been ranging farther, feeding on seeds, bark, and the occasional patch of wild berries. But today, the alpha male has another plan. A colobus monkey call rings faintly through the canopy. A distant, almost mocking bark. The colobus are quick and cautious, but they are also meat. For chimpanzees, such a hunt is rare but vital, providing the protein and fat needed to survive the lean times. The alpha rises to his feet, scanning the branches. His dark face is set, his movements deliberate. One by one, the other adult males notice his focus. They drift closer, exchanging low grunts. A plan begins to form, one older than memory, passed down not by words but by action. The hunters spread out. Two males take the lower branches, moving silently. Another circles wide to the right. The alpha and a younger male stay high in the canopy, where the branches sway dangerously with each step. The young chimp, still clinging to its mother, watches from a safe distance, eyes wide with curiosity. The mother keeps still, knowing the rules. During a hunt, noise is dangerous. Minutes pass in tense silence, then a faint flash of white tail fur, colobus, leaping between trees. The hunters freeze, then move as one. The chase is sudden and explosive. Branches crack, leaves whip past, and the air fills with the wild, high-pitched cries of the fleeing monkeys. One male drives the prey downward, cutting off escape. Another swings hard from a vine, blocking the colobus's path. The alpha leaps from a branch nearly 5 meters across the gap, landing with a crash that startles the prey into hesitation. It is all the opportunity they need. The capture is swift, brutal. A sharp cry echoes, then fades. The hunters regroup on a wide branch, the kill clutched in powerful hands. The alpha takes the first share, chewing slowly, his face unreadable. The smell of fresh meat drifts through the canopy. The rest of the troop gathers below, eyes fixed upward. Females with infants press closer, begging with soft gestures. Juveniles whimper for a taste. The alpha allows only certain allies to share, those who groom him, those who support him in fights, those he trusts. The young chimp's mother receives a small strip. She chews it carefully, then offers the tender meat to her child. The youngster sniffs it, hesitating before taking the first bite. The taste is strange, heavy, rich, and unforgettable. The lesson is clear. In times of scarcity, the troop becomes something more than a family. It becomes a hunting party, a force that can turn the tables on the hunted. Survival demands both patience and ferocity, and the forest rewards those who can be both. The forest grows quieter in the dry months. Leaves crackle underfoot. Streams that once sang over mossy stones are now little more than trickles, their beds exposed to the harsh sun. The air itself feels different, less heavy, less forgiving. For the chimpanzees, this is the season of hunger, and every day is a test. The fruiting trees are nearly bare. Those that do bear anything are far apart, forcing the troop to travel longer distances. The youngest grow restless from the long treks, clinging to their mothers until their arms ache. Adults spend hours scanning the canopy for even the smallest signs of food, a cluster of green pods, the flash of ripe berries, the hum of insects. In these weeks, the troop's diet changes. Seeds, once ignored, are now crushed between strong teeth. Bark is stripped from branches to get at the bitter pith beneath. Occasionally, the alpha male halts the group at a termite mound. Breaking it open with a sturdy stick, to reveal the squirming protein inside. The younger chimps watch closely, mimicking the motions with their own twigs, though they often come away empty. Even water becomes a treasure. Without rain, the forest floor offers few pools, so the troop learns to drink from the heart of the trees. By chewing young shoots or breaking open water-filled stems, they take in precious drops. The young chimp studies each trick, its dark eyes following the elder's every move. Hunger changes tempers too. Disputes break out more easily, over a patch of berries, a hidden cache of seeds, or simply a sunny resting branch. The alpha enforces order with quick, sharp displays, pounding the ground with his fists and shaking nearby trees until the challenger retreats. One evening, after hours of searching, the troop comes upon a single fig tree heavy with fruit. The moment they climb it, the canopy explodes with noise, shrieks, grunts, and the sharp snap of branches as everyone scrambles for a share. The young chimp's mother pulls her child close, shielding it from the chaos, before plucking 3 figs and retreating to a quiet limb. She eats one herself and offers the rest to her offspring. The sweetness is overwhelming after weeks of scarcity, but the feast does not last. By the next morning, the tree is bare and the search begins again. In the season of hunger, survival is not about strength alone, it is about endurance. Those who adapt will live to see the rains return. Those who do, the forest has its own rhythm, calm one day, explosive the next. And nothing shakes that rhythm more than the rise of a challenger. The alpha male has led the troop for years. His body is massive, his dark coat glossy, his chest scarred from old battles. He commands with confidence, enforcing order through strength and cunning. But in the season of hunger, when tempers are frayed and patience is short, cracks begin to appear in his rule. The first signs are subtle. A younger, powerful male named Cora starts sitting closer to the alpha's favored resting branch. At feeding times, he takes fruit without hesitation, ignoring the submissive gestures that others still show. He grooms the females more often, lingering in the company of allies. The alpha notices, his eyes follow Cora with a sharpness that never fades. The tension builds over days. Small confrontations erupt, brief, snarling charges through the branches, loud chest-beating displays, the sound of branches snapping as the 2 males crash toward each other before stopping short. Each encounter draws the troop's attention. Even the juveniles pause their games to watch. One morning, the air feels heavy with expectation. The troop is gathered on the ground to feed on fallen figs. The alpha sits in the center, broad shoulders hunched, while Cora lingers at the edge of the group. Without warning, Cora steps forward and takes a fig from the alpha's pile. The forest holds its breath. The alpha explodes upward, teeth bared, a roar tearing from his throat. Cora meets him head-on. They crash together in a blur of fur and muscle, the sound of their blows echoing through the trees. Females scream and scatter with their young. Dust rises as the 2 males wrestle, biting, kicking, pounding the earth with their fists. The fight is fierce but short. The alpha, still stronger, drives Cora back, forcing him into the lower branches. Cora retreats with a guttural snarl, disappearing into the shadows. The alpha stands alone in the clearing, chest heaving, his dominance reaffirmed, for now. But the young chimp, clinging to its mother's back, has seen something new in Cora's eyes. Not defeat, but calculation. The challenger is not gone. He is waiting. And in the forest, patience can be as deadly as power. The rules of the troop are unchanging. There can only be one leader. And sooner or later, the branches will shake again. Cora, the challenger, keeps his distance from the alpha male, but his presence is like a shadow over the troop. He no longer tests the leader directly, yet every move he makes, every shared meal with an ally, every quiet grooming session with a female, feels like the planting of seeds. The alpha grows more restless. His displays of dominance become louder, more violent. He shakes entire trees until leaves and twigs rain down. He chases younger males away from feeding spots with explosive bursts of aggression. The troop follows his lead, but some eyes, especially among the younger males, linger on Cora with interest. Then, one dawn, the forest wakes to chaos. The sounds come first: deep barks, the crash of branches, the sharp screams of females. The young chimp clings to its mother as she scrambles upward into the canopy, seeking safety. Below, on the ground, the alpha and Cora are locked in a fight far more brutal than the last. This is not a test. This is a war for control. They slam into each other, teeth tearing at fur, hands gripping and yanking, feet kicking with bone-cracking force. Allies join in, loyalists to the alpha charge at Cora, while Cora's supporters counterattack from the sides. The forest explodes with movement, dust rising in clouds as the battle churns. In the end, the alpha prevails again, but this time, the cost is exile. Cora, bleeding and panting, retreats into the shadows, his allies scattering with him. The law of the forest is clear: a defeated challenger cannot remain among the troop. He vanishes into the deeper jungle, alone. The days that follow feel quieter, but also emptier. Without Cora, the troop travels more smoothly, yet the absence is felt, especially by the young males, who had begun to admire his boldness. The young chimp, too, thinks of the powerful figure now somewhere beyond the horizon of leaves. Seasons turn. The rains return, painting the forest in fresh greens. Food is plentiful again. The troop settles into a calmer rhythm, until one afternoon, a familiar sound rises from the lower branches. Cora is back. His body is leaner, his movements more deliberate. Scars mark his face, but his eyes burn with a quiet, dangerous focus. He carries the confidence of one who has survived alone, hunting, foraging, defending himself without the safety of numbers. And now he moves not with reckless challenge, but with the patience of someone who knows the right moment will come. The alpha notices immediately. His posture stiffens, his lips press into a warning display. But Cora does not charge. He sits at a distance, watching, waiting, grooming himself as if he belongs here once again. For the young chimp, the lesson is sharp and unforgettable. Exile is not always the end. In the forest, survival is not only about strength, it is about knowing when to fight and when to wait. The forest has always been the troop's world, its dangers familiar, its rhythms unchanging. But one morning, a new sound drifts through the canopy. It is not the rustle of leaves or the call of a bird. It is deep, mechanical, unnatural. The troop freezes. The young chimp clings to its mother's back, peering into the distance. A strange smell rides on the breeze, acrid, metallic, unlike anything the forest has known. Then, through the lattice of leaves, shapes appear. They are upright like chimpanzees, but taller, moving on two legs without paws. Their skins are not fur but cloth of many colors. Some carry long, stick-like objects over their shoulders. Others drag bundles behind them, and their voices, sharp, clipped bursts, echo strangely in the humid air. The alpha gives a low grunt, a signal for caution. The troop moves higher into the canopy, hidden in shadows. From above they watch as the humans approach a giant tree. With loud, biting tools, the humans cut into its trunk. The sound is deafening. Chips of wood fly. The smell of sap mixes with the stinging scent of gasoline. Finally, with a groan like an animal in pain, the tree crashes to the ground, shaking the forest. For the young chimp, the moment is terrifying. The forest has always been strong, eternal. But these strange creatures can bring down a tree in minutes. Days later, the humans return. This time they carry ropes and place strange, glinting loops along animal paths. The young chimp's curiosity draws it close, but its mother pulls it back sharply. A juvenile too bold to resist approaches one of the loops, and with a sudden metallic snap, its leg is caught. The air fills with screams of pain. Adults rush to the youngster, pulling at the trap until it gives way, leaving the juvenile limping. The scent of blood lingers, a reminder that the human's tools are not just for trees. But not all humans bring harm. One afternoon, a different group appears, quieter, dressed in earth-colored clothes, their faces calm. They move slowly, carrying strange black objects that they lift to their eyes. They sit for hours, watching without chasing, writing in small books. One female even leaves bunches of ripe bananas at the base of a tree before retreating. Some of the troop remain wary, but curiosity begins to outweigh fear. The young chimp inches closer with a few juveniles, watching the humans' hands, the way they point and make soft sounds. They do not cut trees. They do not set traps. Still, their presence is a mystery, neither predator nor prey, but something in between. In time, the troop will learn that humans can be both destroyers and observers, dangers and allies. For now, the young chimp only knows this: the forest is no longer theirs alone. Seasons have passed. The once small, wide-eyed chimp who clung to its mother's back now moves with the confidence of an adult. Its fur is thick, its limbs strong, its scars telling silent stories of hunger, storms, and the day the humans came. In its arms, a tiny infant rests, soft, wrinkled, and utterly dependent. The infant's small hands curl around its mother's fur, eyes blinking at the filtered sunlight above. The forest smells of rain and flowers, and far away, the cries of colobus monkeys echo. Life, for the moment, is peaceful. The adult mother knows every corner of the territory now: the hidden fig trees that ripen early, the termite mounds that yield food even in the dry season, the safest paths away from leopards. She has learned the dangers of the glinting snares and the sound of human axes. She has also learned that some humans simply watch, their eyes filled with something almost like respect. She passes this knowledge to her little one. When a rustle in the bushes reveals a trap, she pulls the infant away, grooming it gently to calm its small, trembling body. When the troop comes across the quiet humans with their black-eyed machines, she stays in the open just long enough for her child to see, then leads it away, teaching caution without fear. The young one grows, chasing butterflies through shafts of golden light, tumbling with other infants in the safety of the midday sun. It learns the call of the eagle, the taste of sweet palm hearts, the rhythm of the rain. It learns that the forest is full of beauty, but also of choices that mean survival. One evening, as the sky burns orange and shadows stretch long, the mother sits high in the canopy with her child asleep against her chest. The sounds of the forest swell around her: cicadas, frogs, the winds whisper through the leaves. She gazes toward the distant edge of the forest where the tree line meets the open ground, knowing the humans are out there somewhere. She does not fear them as she once did. She only hopes her child will grow in a forest still strong, still wild, still theirs. And as the sun slips away, she holds her little one closer, passing on not just life, but the wisdom to survive. And perhaps, one day, to thrive. The forest still hums with life, but for the old alpha, its songs are slower now. His once quick strides are more deliberate, his once powerful leaps between branches replaced by careful climbs. Time has worn his muscles, and the silver in his fur glistens under the filtered sunlight. His deep eyes hold the weight of many seasons: victories, losses, storms survived, and friends buried in the soil below. He was once the voice that silenced disputes with a single glare, the leader who led the troop through famine, defended them from the leopard's silent strike, and guided them to hidden waterholes when the rivers ran dry. His chest once boomed with the dominance drumming that echoed through the canopy like thunder, but now his voice is quieter, his drumming less frequent. Around him, younger males wrestle in the clearing. Their movements are fast, their energy restless, their eyes testing. One in particular, strong, sharp-eyed, with a scar across his cheek, moves with growing authority. The old alpha watches him with both pride and caution. Leadership, he knows, is not taken by age alone, but by proving oneself worthy. Days pass, and the shift becomes clear. The younger male begins to mediate quarrels, to lead the troop to feeding grounds, to be the first to confront threats. The old alpha does not fight this change. Instead, he guides it. Subtle glances, gentle interventions, the kind of wisdom that cannot be learned by force. One evening, as the sun fades and the forest turns to shadow, the old alpha sits apart, high in a fig tree, watching the troop below. The new leader leads them toward their night nests, his stride confident, his presence strong. For the first time, the old alpha does not follow at the front. He lingers, letting the younger one walk ahead. The air is cool, carrying the scent of distant rain. The old alpha closes his eyes for a moment, listening, not to the chaos of the troop, but to the deep, steady heartbeat of the forest he has known all his life. His time as leader is over, but his legacy moves on in the safe paths they walk, the hidden feeding spots they know, and the strength of the one who now leads them. In the great circle of the canopy, leadership is not lost. It is passed on. Dawn spills gold across the canopy, brushing the leaves with light. The forest wakes not with a sudden burst, but with a gentle swell. Birdsong, the distant whoop of colobus monkeys, and the rustle of leaves stirred by the morning breeze. In the heart of this living kingdom, the chimpanzee troop stirs from their nests. Mothers stretch, cradling infants who cling tightly. Young ones scramble through the branches in playful bursts, their laughter-like calls scattering a flock of startled parrots. The new alpha stands watchful, scanning the forest below, his chest rising and falling in a slow, steady rhythm. Life flows as it always has: birth, play, learning, conflict, reconciliation, age, and passing. The faces may change, but the rhythm remains. Each generation carries the memory of those before them in the trails they walk, the feeding trees they visit, and the unspoken rules that bind them together. In a quiet grove, the old alpha rests, away from the bustle. He no longer leads, but his presence is still felt, through the respect the troop shows him, and in the wisdom he has left behind. A juvenile approaches him timidly, offering a small piece of fruit. The elder accepts it with slow, careful hands, and the young one lingers, watching, learning. Above them, the canopy stretches endlessly, an emerald roof sheltering countless lives. Sunlight filters through in shifting patterns, like the passing of time itself, ever moving, never stopping. Here, in this ancient forest, life does not belong to one, but to all. The story of the troop is not written in stone, but in the movement of leaves, the calls across treetops, and the generations yet to come. And so, the forest continues, its roots deep, its branches wide, holding within them the unbroken legacy of the wild. But this legacy is not static. It shifts with the seasons, with each rainfall and each dry spell, with each birth and loss. Beyond the troop, other stories unfold in parallel. Stories carried on the wings of hornbills, in the stealth of a passing leopard, in the thunder of distant elephants. The forest is not a single voice, but a choir, each note essential, each rhythm keeping time with the heartbeat of the earth. The canopy hums with unseen lives, insects crafting intricate cities in rotting wood, orchids blooming in the crook of old branches, and tiny frogs calling from rain-filled leaves. Down below, the undergrowth whispers of other dramas, the hunt of the civet, the patient weaving of a spider's web, the silent germination of seeds dropped months before. These are not background details. They are the quiet architects of the forest's resilience. The soil grows rich from what falls, The rivers flow clearer when roots hold the banks, and the air itself is shaped by the breathing of countless leaves. For the chimpanzees, these unseen forces are as vital as the bonds within their troop. They drink from the same streams, eat from the same trees, and shelter under the same skies as all who share this ancient land. In protecting one, the whole is safeguarded. In losing one, the whole is diminished. And still, time moves forward. The young will climb higher, the elders will pass on their wisdom, and new leaders will emerge, tested by storms and seasons. The forest will remember them not in monuments, but in the paths they carved, the trees they favored, the calls they answered. Under the endless green, life weaves on, interconnected, ever-changing, yet eternal. The ancient forest endures, and with it, the unbroken story of the wild. When the sun dips below the horizon, the ancient forest exhales. The chatter of the troop fades into soft murmurs, then silence, as each chimp finds a nest among the branches. But this is not the end of the forest story, only a change of rhythm. In the darkness, other rulers awaken. The moon spills silver light across the canopy, revealing the slow, deliberate glide of an owl's wings. Moths with patterned wings the size of hands drift toward the pale glow of moonlit flowers, whose scents grow stronger after sunset. Far below, the undergrowth stirs with delicate tremors. The padded steps of a civet on the hunt, the cautious rustle of a pangolin rolling through dry leaves. Tiny frogs, unseen in daylight, now fill the night with pulsing songs, each note a beacon to a mate. Some creatures move silently, leaving only signs, the faint scratch of a porcupine's quills against bark, the delicate holes dug by armadillo claws in search of termites. Even the rivers sound different at night, carrying the whisper of cool air over their surfaces. And while the troop sleeps, the forest continues its work. Seeds dropped earlier in the day begin to take root in the moist soil. Nocturnal pollinators, unseen by most eyes, link one plant's life to another's survival. By the time the eastern sky grows pale, the night's brief dominion ends. The creatures of darkness retreat to hidden hollows, and the forest shifts once more, ready to hand the day back to the waking troop. While the forest dazzles with sights and sounds, its true architects often work unseen. Beneath the carpet of fallen leaves, armies of ants tunnel through the soil, aerating it and carrying nutrients where roots can drink them in. Each grain of soil they move is small, but together, their labor reshapes the very ground on which the forest stands. Termites, often mistaken for destroyers, are master recyclers. They chew through fallen logs and dead branches, breaking down stubborn fibers until they become rich, dark humus, a gift back to the earth. Without them, the forest floor would choke under the weight of its own history. Fungi weave through the soil like a hidden web, connecting tree to tree in an underground network. Through these mycelial threads, older, stronger trees share water and nutrients with their younger kin, ensuring the next generation has a chance to rise. Even the smallest beetle plays its part. Rolling away a ball of dung to feed its young, it unknowingly sows seeds far from where they fell, giving them the chance to sprout in new sunlight. The troop rarely notices these builders. To the chimps, the forest simply exists, eternal and unchanging. But it is these tireless, quiet workers who hold the great web together, making sure the trees stand tall, the rivers run clear, and the air remains sweet with life. Without them, the towering canopy and the life it shelters would crumble in silence. When the first low rumbles echo over the horizon, the forest seems to hold its breath. The air grows thick, scented with damp earth and the faint sweetness of flowering vines. Then, with a sudden, rolling release, the sky opens. Sheets of rain pound the canopy, drumming on leaves in rhythms older than memory. The great trees sway under the weight of water, their roots drinking deep. Streams swell into rushing rivers, carving new paths through the forest floor. Pools form in the hoofprints of antelope, quickly claimed by frogs, whose calls rise in joyful chorus. For the troop, life shifts. The dry trails become slick with mud, making travel slower and more cautious. The younger chimps leap from branch to avoid the soggy ground, splashing each other when they miss their mark. Fruit ripens in abundance during this season, heavy clusters bending branches low, a feast for all, though it brings competition with other animals. But the rains are not only generous, they bring challenges. The swollen rivers hide sharp currents. Sudden storms strip leaves from the trees. And lightning, bright and violent, can strike without warning. Yet, every creature has learned to adapt. The elephants, with their great feet, churn the wet ground into pathways. Birds spread seeds as they feed on rain-swelled fruits. Even the rain itself carries life, seeding mosses and ferns that paint the forest in deeper shades of green. For the troop, the season is both a test and a blessing. Each downpour is a reminder that life here is not tamed. It is lived in rhythm with forces greater than themselves. The rains had swelled the forest's bounty, and with it came strangers. One morning, the troop's scouts caught the faint scent of others. Not leopard, not antelope, but their own kind. Foreign chimps. The first sighting came at the riverbank, where the swollen waters churned in muddy foam. Across the torrent, another troop watched. Their bodies were lean but strong, their eyes sharp and unblinking. At first, there was only silence, broken by the rush of water and the chatter of kingfishers. Then, the displays began. Loud calls, chest beating, the breaking of branches, a language of dominance understood without translation. Young males from both sides bristled with energy, pacing the edges, their every muscle coiled. The elders held back, studying. This was not just about food or territory. It was about the balance of the forest. Two groups could share, or they could clash. The decision would shape the season. Days passed in tense standoffs. Sometimes the strangers were seen in the upper canopy, plucking fruit with deliberate slowness, daring the troop to challenge them. Other times, they vanished entirely, leaving only their scent in the damp air. Finally, a meeting came, not of war, but of wary truce. At a grove heavy with figs, both troops gathered. Growls and barks punctuated the air, but no blows were struck. The leaders, two grizzled alphas, moved with measured caution, circling one another before settling in opposite trees. The forest watched in stillness, for now there was peace. But in the wild, peace is never permanent. It shifts like the wind, fragile and fleeting. The sun had barely climbed above the canopy when the troop caught the scent. Sharp, musky, alive. Somewhere in the thicket, a colobus monkey was moving. Hunting was no casual act. It demanded precision, patience, and unity. But this time, there was a problem. The strangers, the rival troop, were already near. Their calls echoed through the trees, closing in on the same prey. The air grew tense. Each rustle of leaves was a message. We are here too. For a moment it seemed the hunt would collapse into chaos, each side trying to outmaneuver the other. Then, an unexpected thing happened. A young male from the rival troop, barely past his first adult season, signaled a path through the branches. It was risky, but it would trap the colobus between the two groups. The alphas hesitated. Cooperation was rare, and trust was thinner than bark. But hunger has a way of silencing pride. In an unspoken pact, both troops moved. Silent shadows leapt from branch to branch, driving the colobus toward the center. The prey's alarm calls split the air, and in a final burst, it was caught, not by one side or the other, but in the hands of both. They shared the kill in tense silence, each bite an act of mutual acknowledgement. No one smiled, no one relaxed. Yet in that moment, the forest saw something rare. Rivals standing side by side. When the last bone was cracked, they parted without ceremony, melting back into their own territories. The truce held for one more day, but in the wild, alliances are as fragile as spider silk. The rains failed. At first it was subtle. A dry breeze where mist should have been, leaves curling earlier than usual, rivers shrinking at their edges. But soon, the forest began to sound different. The calls of birds faded. Insects hummed less. Even the wind seemed reluctant to pass through the canopy. For the troop, each day became a calculation. Waterholes were now muddy basins. Fruit hung small and bitter on the branches. The young cried more often, their mothers searching longer for food. Predators grew bolder. A hungry leopard was spotted twice in the same week, prowling near the last stream. Even the rival troop, once a constant threat, had grown quiet. Hunger pressed on everyone equally. The old alpha, his fur silvered and thin, moved slower now, but his eyes still carried the weight of seasons past. He led the troop to places only he remembered, hidden groves where deep roots still fed the trees, and where water pooled in stone hollows no rival dared to claim. Yet the journey was costly. Each trek meant risks, snakes in the grass, hawks above, and the constant gnawing weakness of thirst. Some would not make it to the next dawn. Still, in the face of this withering season, the troop learned something new. They learned to pause for the weak, to share the smallest find, to follow the memory of the old. And in the heart of the parched forest, beneath a tree older than memory, they found what they sought, a spring, still flowing, hidden under tangled roots. They drank deeply, the water tasting like life itself. But they also knew this gift would not last forever. The season of change was far from over. Morning broke slowly, the sun's light spilling in gold between the branches. The air was still cool from the night, carrying the scent of damp earth and the faint song of awakening birds. The troop stirred, stretching stiff limbs and shaking off the dreams of hunger and fear. The old alpha rose later than the rest. His steps were slower, but no longer burdened with uncertainty. The spring had given them a reprieve. Around him, the young ones chased each other in bursts of clumsy joy, their laughter breaking the long silence that had settled over the forest during the drought. But the old one's gaze lingered on the eastern ridge. He knew that beyond it lay both promise and danger, green lands when the rains returned, but also rival clans eager to claim what they had found. His time for leading battles and long treks was ending. The fire in his limbs had burned for many seasons, but now it smoldered low. A young male, broad-shouldered and quick-eyed, had begun to take the lead on the morning searches. He listened when the old alpha spoke, but now made choices of his own. The troop followed him without hesitation. The shift was happening quietly, naturally, like dawn replacing night. The old alpha felt no bitterness. Leadership, he had learned, was never owned, only borrowed, like a branch to rest on before the next leap. By midday the forest came alive again. Clouds gathered far to the west, heavy with the promise of rain. The troop foraged in the shade, drinking often from the spring, while above them, the first drops began to fall. The old alpha climbed to a low branch and lay there, watching the young lead the group forward. The laughter, the calls, the rustling leaves, all of it told him that the story would continue. When the rain finally broke in full, washing the dust from the air, he closed his eyes and breathed deeply. Somewhere inside, he knew the forest would remember him, not in stone or in name, but in the lives he had kept alive. The next dawn was no longer his to greet alone. It belonged to all of them.